Well, hello there. It's another day. I'm Jim Harrington.
And I'm the other guy, Bill Knight. How are you?
I'm fine, sir. Life is treating me well. President Trump, you couldn't help but notice that overseas they treat him like royalty. I mean, he is greeted and welcomed with such respect. And over here, the media, all they want to do is dump on him, Bill. Have you noticed that?
Yeah. And isn't he coming back with checks, Bill? Money?
Oh, God. Bill, I think Saudi Arabia promised to spend $600 billion.
Maybe even more.
Unbelievable. I mean, that's just his first stop. Right now, as we speak, I think he's headed to Syria. Or no, I'm sorry, take that back. He's headed to Qatar right now. Probably to look at that plane just to irritate the left.
Oh, the left is going, they're sitting there going, it's going to take so much money to retrofit this plane. It's taking us decades to build a presidential plane. Trump aside, our presidents fly around in the oldest plane. We're the biggest, most honored, sacred cow country, and we don't have a good plane sufficient enough. And, it's got all the latest technology. No, it doesn't. It's an old plane.
Yeah.
It's 40-plus years old. And I'm sorry, but, and that plane doesn't have time to be sat down and serviced the way that you would like a B-52. Well, we've got 300 B-52s. We'll take 100 out and refurbish them. It doesn't work like that. So we're sitting there, and it's going to take us forever to build a new one. They're saying, gee, it's a Boeing. It's a well-built Boeing.
Bill, can't you – I would imagine that if there's anything special, I'm sure there is, electronically speaking, on the Air Force One. I would imagine with the way computers work, you could – if you can't take the ones that are in the Air Force One that we have now out and put them in the new plane, they probably could make it a simpler, more portable unit that they could put inside the new plane, if you know what I mean.
I am sure that when they built the presidential planes, those planes have universal wiring. So whatever the avionics that have to go in there, plug into that. But, you've got these left politicians, because they know everything. They're aeronautical engineers. And they're going, it'll cost billions and take years.
Now, there was one thing I was thinking of yesterday, which did make me go, from what I understand, Air Force One is designed to withstand an EMP. So if the president is flying and an EMP hits, it doesn't stop the plane. It doesn't cut the electronics off. And I would imagine a regular plane doesn't have that.
Does that mean that the plane has, when it was built, has internal shielding around it? Or does that mean the individual components? Like when they build that special radio and the electronics, they're shielded. Chances are, wouldn't you think that some of that is kind of standard procedure in most planes?
Yeah, I would think, even a regular passenger plane, you'd want to have it be shielded from an EMP blast so that all the planes in the sky don't fall out of the sky.
People are pulling, they want to trip up Trump. They're pulling everything out of their
gluteus maximus,
yes, that they can, and that's all it is now. Okay, you've asked the question. Let's get somebody that's knowledgeable, not a Democrat. Pundits going, I've commented before on things about Trump, and I would say, oh, no, he's crazy. Of course you would. But let's get somebody that really knows what they're talking about to give the answers.
Well, I think, by the way, that him getting that plane is a great idea. And when I hear them say, the emoluments clause, he can't have gifts like that from a foreign country. Hey, I remind you, like I did yesterday, that the Statue of Liberty was a gift. How much is the Statue of Liberty worth? Billions, probably now. The value of that? I mean, you couldn't replace it. It's the American Statue of Liberty. It's a worldwide symbol. We were given that by the French for nothing.
Yeah. Now, I guarantee if we get the plane and they go, and for some reason, Trump, you can't take it with you for your presidential, library.
Mm-hmm.
I am sure if a Democrat got elected, they would sit there and go, we'll have that plane up and ready for you to go, sir. Can you wait a week? All of a sudden, it would change. So let's get off your high horse here. Everything from the left is negative, negative, negative. Even on, there was a guy, I forget his name. I've got it written down, but apparently he realized that, wait a minute, all the news out of MS or NBC,
MSNBC is
yeah,
leftist. Yeah,
is all left. He
it was that
finally figured
Washington
that out.
Post reporter, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
and he realized that, and he goes, well, even CNN's got Jennings, and and Fox has got people. Of course, they didn't talk about CBS because they edit things.
that's right.
Negative Trump,
Yes,
So
we have a country of double standards right now. Another thing which is blatantly obvious is what's happening with the refugees from South Africa. 59 of them, 59. That's under 100. That's a small amount. 59 arrived in this country the day before yesterday. Seeking, they were granted asylum from President Trump, and the left went ballistic. They said these are descendants of Africana. They were racist and segregationists and all this other stuff. Well, I mean, a lot of people in the South are relatives of segregationists and racists from the Civil War area. I'm just saying, it doesn't mean that they are. It doesn't mean the people who are alive today should be punished for the actions of their ancestors. But they want you, the left wants you to believe that they are one and the same. Now, mind you, the left is the same group of people that completely kept their mouths shut when the border was wide open and tens of thousands of people stormed our country. That was being done by the Democrats, and they had no problem with that. That was okay. But if Trump allows a handful, literally, of people who, by the way, I don't know whether you know what's happening in South Africa, but the new black majority in South Africa, they are ruthless. They are literally seizing farms and in some cases killing the owners of those farms just because they want to. You probably have seen the video of the leader of that party talking about how you have to embrace killing. You cannot be afraid to kill. Killing is part of a revolution. You have to be able to embrace this. This is what we need to do. It's out there now. You can go look for the video yourself, and it'll shock you too. But the left in our country is despicable. They have absolutely no shame. They let tens of thousands, and by the way, they're trying to make it a racist thing. And Bill, I don't know whether the left is all that smart, because we had 20 to 30 million strangers come across the border. They weren't all minorities.
No.
Some were whites from South America who came across.
Well, we talked about it earlier. We're talking about the Americas, and there are a lot of white people there. But, there was a survey out, and if you can believe this survey, because I don't, because, we're talking about illegal immigrants, but if you believe it, 65% of America does not support deportations vis-a-vis we welcome, illegals, and now we embrace them.
Where did you see this survey?
I think I saw it on MSN. And I'm like going, you got to be kidding me. This is BS.
Yeah, well, they will, first of all, let's go back to surveys for a second. They have proven to be unreliable for years now. I mean, we had them lying to us in 2020. First of all, they lied in 2016 because they told us right up until election night that Hillary was the winner. The polls said up until 9 o'clock, it looks like a slam dunk for Hillary. Break out the champagne, get the balloons ready, and get the barge with the fireworks lined up because we're going to have a celebration. And suddenly, everything changed. The polls were amazingly wrong. Then they tried to make it sound like they corrected themselves in 2020. They did the same prediction again. It was going to be Joe Biden, Joe Biden. But a lot of us, and I really mean this, and I do think, by the way, Bill, we're not finished with the backstory on the 2020 election yet. I think that something is going to happen very soon that is going to prove that 2020 was a lie. And the left is going to go ballistic because it'll come from this administration, but it will be irrefutable. And when it happens,
you know what they'll do? They don't want to believe it. They will go to civil war. They will go full on. That's it. We're going to fight.
Well, they're already threatening right now to do that. But anyway, 2020, the polls again were unreliable, and in 2024. The polls were unreliable again. And you know what happens, folks? We are lulled into this complacency. Like, we start to believe the polls because they throw it at us like every day. The latest Rasmussen poll, the latest Gallup poll, the latest this poll, the latest Quinnipiac poll. And they every day they're throwing a new poll at us. And after a while, we start paying attention to them like they're valid again. And if we stop and pause for a second, we realize they're not. They're not reliable. They're skewed. They're weighted. It's ridiculous. Hey, before we go much further, Bill, we should remind people that we've moved to another platform. Our show is now on a different platform. And by the way, it's important that you tell your friends to listen to our program and to spread the word about the show, because when you move from one platform to the other, you lose a lot of your ratings and stuff like that. You know, you don't bring them with you. And we had terrific ratings on the old platform, but this new platform gives us a chance to build some revenue, which is important for our show. This is our 4th year. We've done it so far on our own dime. And so we appreciate, if you would, to like and share our show. I think polls are not reliable, and I think that we've got to realize that we're being manipulated constantly. And I do think, Bill, that we're going to find out very soon that 2020 was whether for good or for bad. The left, Bill, they complain about this violent insurrection in January of 2021 at the Capitol. This violent insurrection, they're throwing out things. 5 policemen didn't die. The only victim was Ashley Babbitt, an innocent woman, a 14-year military veteran who happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. She didn't have any weapons on her. She did nothing wrong. Yet a Capitol police officer, for no good reason, pulled his weapon and shot her dead. But yet the left wants you to believe that it was the right that was so violent. And again, no one ever says this, but if they wanted to take the Capitol, Bill, all they had to do is look out at the crowd. There are 1 million people out there. How would they stop? How would they stop 1 million people if they went in? Yeah,
the Capitol would have been burned down. But the reason that they could sell this story is they had the network. They had NBC, they had CBS. CBS is reeling in the fact that they got caught, editing Kamala tapes to make her sound good and rewriting what she screwed up. ABC, they're so despicable, nobody talks about them. And, NBC, they got called out by, we mentioned it earlier, what was the guy's name? Eric Wimple, who, sat there and said from the Washington Post, whoa, wait a minute, whoa, these guys don't do anything.
Well, they don't do their homework, Bill. These guys don't really do their homework.
Actually, they do their homework that they're paid to do. It's all left, 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 left. Because why would you do something deliberately unless there is incentive for you to do it?
I'll get to it in a little while, but I only see what they don't do their homework because we have got a book coming out from Jake Tapper any day now, if it's not already out. And he talks about, like, to his surprise, Biden was having cognitive problems. To his surprise, I mean, he makes it sound like it was an epiphany. Oh, my goodness. He was having dementia issues. Oh, my God. I mean, everybody who paid attention for 4 years knew it from the beginning, but all of a sudden, now that he's out of office, Tapper's going to write a book and make some money on it. Also, Chuck Todd. Chuck Todd went after Chuck Schumer for protecting for protecting Joe Biden. As a matter of fact, it's two cuts. I want to play the first cut. It's an interview with CNN and Chuck Schumer, Chuck Chuckle Schumer. Listen.
Called Original Sin, and they call it a cover-up of Biden's health and his cognition and his fitness, quite frankly, to be president of the United States. You sat next to Biden in the Oval Office, February 27th, 2024, just a handful of months before the president took that debate stage. And it was later reported that you and other Democratic leaders were talking before the debate about having a plan. You and Hakeem Jeffries, Nancy Pelosi, Barack Obama. I understand you later denied that that ever happened. But I am curious, I'm interested to know whether the man that you saw sitting there on that couch on that day, you were in there, you saw him up close and personal. Did you really not have any idea that he was not fit to serve a second term?
Casey, we're looking forward. We have the largest Medicaid cut in front of us. We have the whole federal
you're
government
facing all of this
risk.
because you lost a presidential election. And is that not Joe Biden's responsibility for deciding to run again?
We're looking forward.
That's it?
That's it.
All right. Senator Chuck Schumer, I know you got to go. I appreciate your time today. We'll see you soon, I hope.
Did you hear how they literally protected Schumer? They didn't jump down his throat like, but how can you not respond to that? They didn't follow up with, that's it. That's it.
That's it. He ignored the question. We're looking forward. Answer the damn question, Chuck. No, we're looking forward.
She actually closed the interview. Well, I know you got to go. He looked surprised when she said that. Well, I know you got to go, but thank you very much, Senator Chuck Schumer. I'm going to play the second part. Now, this is Chuck Todd. All of a sudden, he's seeing the light, too. Listen.
All right. Senator Chuck Schumer, I know you got to go. I appreciate your time today. We'll see you soon, I hope. Thank you.
Take care.
All right. And our panel joins us now. CNN political commentator Jonah Goldberg, the host of the Chuck Toddcast, Chuck Todd, Democratic strategist Paul Begala, Republican pollster Kristen Soltis Anderson, both CNN political commentators. Chuck Todd, go.
He is among the people that are responsible for this. The leaders of the Democratic Party, the staff of the White House, and I have to say, I find everybody now talking to these authors, get out of here. Go home. You're part of the problem. Now you tell us. So I find, the reason why the Democratic Party has less credibility today. Here's an unpopular president, and the Democratic Party has a worse rating than the Republican Party with this catastrophic governance that we've seen over the last 120 days. And yet, why is the Democratic Party in worse shape? Because of this distrust, because of this, frankly, what the public feels as if the party leadership let them down and let this happen. He's as responsible as anybody else. He was a leader in the party. He could have said something sooner.
And Chuck, you are responsible too.
Yeah.
They have no shame, these people. The Jake Tappers and the Chuck Todds. All of a sudden, they're on the side of the righteous.
But Todd is not realizing that Trump has actually done great things. He's going, here we got this, whatever he said about, total chaos, referring to Trump. And I'm like going, have you really looked at what he's done?
Yeah.
He's achieved all of his goals and then some.
Well, Bill, Panama, they don't talk at all about this at all. Nothing. Panama has become like a distant memory. But Panama is now the Chinese are out of there. They control. They were building ports at either end of the Panama Canal. The Chinese were. They're gone now. The Americans, they were being overcharged to send their ships through the canal. That's gone. No more charging like that. I don't think they're even being charged anymore. All those ships can go through. Everything that they wanted has been a success. I'm talking about everything the administration wanted. They really and truly have regained some semblance of control of the Panama Canal. But the media won't talk about it. The media just figures, nothing to see here. We'll keep walking along. Let's talk about China and the tariffs for a second. We came to an agreement on the tariffs 3 months right now, but they think it's going to work into a long-term agreement. But what people aren't talking about is that it's even bigger than this. Xi Jinping has got his derriere in a slingshot right now in China.
Yeah, it's in a crack, yeah.
Yeah, they have got a situation right now where a lot of businesses are closing in China because of his mishandling of the tariff situation. And now because he had to cave, the hardliners in China want him out. And when they want you out in China, it's not with a gold watch and a handshake. It's sometimes something more drastic. We may hear a news release that he came down with some very bad virus and passed away unexpectedly. And we all know what that means in that kind of a system. Now, actually, China is kind of up against the wall right now. They need us much more than we need them. And Trump, being the astute businessman, knew that. Out of the two parties, who had the biggest bargaining chip? Is it the country that relies on selling its product to you, or you, the guy who purchases that product? Especially when you can get that product in your own country if you just work a little harder.
And we're bringing back manufacturing. It's gearing up on its own. China was set to fail. They built all those warehouses to house American companies that were going to come over there and manufacture. Apple was one of them, where the phone, I guess I should say. And all of a sudden, they uprooted. They're coming back this way and getting out of China. China is left with all these factories and buildings that are they're just sitting there. It was Trump's previous administration, it started back then, that he basically pulled the carpet out from under them, which had they gone away with it, we wouldn't be we don't manufacture much anyway, but it's coming back. And that's the backbone of this country.
And look what's happening in the Middle East. I don't know whether you had a chance to watch yesterday, but Trump spoke in front of a massive crowd in Saudi Arabia. And the response was just amazing. They loved the guy. And his speech was a welcoming speech. And it wasn't directed just towards Saudi Arabia. It was directed to the entire region. He was talking to everybody in the Middle East. Don't isolate yourself. Don't separate yourself from success. Put down the ridiculous fighting and tools of war. And come to us, and we will embrace you and give you the opportunity to be the best that you can be. And honest to God, folks, the audience they were just elated. The applause, I never heard longer applause for President Trump. They just thought he was saying absolutely the right things. He turned to Syria. Syria has been essentially a troublemaker for a while. He turned to Syria and said, I'm announcing today that I am suspending the sanctions against Syria. I guess they've been in place for like 10 years, and they are crippling. What it means is that we didn't sell to Syria, and I guess other countries that are close to us didn't sell to Syria, and Syria was hurting big time from those sanctions. And when he announced, and it was a surprise to everybody in the room, when he announced, he said, I'm giving Syria a chance to come out of the darkness and to succeed. Succeed. Trump is amazing. He is a man of peace. He did say, look, I will not hesitate to use the power that was given to me to protect our country and our friends. I won't do that. But if you are straight and if you are honest with me and you want to be a part of this success, we will welcome you. It wasn't like he was forgiving anybody. He was saying, okay, let's just put that aside. That's the past. We're starting anew.
Kind of like the Pete Rose thing, not wanting to bring baseball in, but all of a sudden the Major League Baseball Association lift all, everything so that he can actually now be, voted with the Major League player. But I think
day
that's
late and a
too
dollar
late.
short.
Yeah, he died last year. But, it's the same type of thing that is going on here. Look, we're not going to forget the past, but bygones be bygones.
They're still not letting him be. You would think if they're going to make that announcement that they'd say, well, he can be in this year. No, he'll be eligible in 2027. So even with all of this, right, they're still going to make him wait a couple of years.
He can't wait anymore. He's dead.
Yeah, and they also let Shoeless Joe Jackson in.
Yeah,
another great baseball player who was put out to pasture way too. Baseball has got their issues, and I used to watch, Pete Rose. He was an amazing ball player. What he didn't have in like gifts, he had in hustle. I think they called him Joe Hustle or Johnny Hustle or some nickname like that, because the guy, he never did anything other than his very best. He always, if he was running to steal a base, he didn't slow down anywhere. He ran as hard as he could run to get to that base, to steal it. I think it was Joe Hustle. I'm trying to think. But anyway, he was an amazing ball player. And by the way, when they talk about, he bet, he was betting.
So what?
He bet on his own team to win. Okay. Yeah. Now, by the way, when you watch all these different games on television, it's all sponsored by some casino somewhere.
Yeah, betting's cool now all of a sudden.
Right now, when you watch a game on ESPN, the game is, everyone talks about the odds. My God. How hypocritical. Baseball should have said, hey, forget the two-year waiting period. That's suspended. He's going in this year. But they don't.
But he'll never get to see the fruits of his labor. And he said he was in a self-made prison because he bet on his team to win. I don't know. I never was cool with what went on there with all of that.
No, but, neither was I.
I was just using that as the analogy. Sometimes we do stuff that's just doesn't make sense.
Well, many times we do stuff that doesn't make sense. Now we have a situation with President Trump where he's going to Qatar. I don't know about you, but every time he goes to a different Middle Eastern country, I worry for the guy. And I'll tell you what happened, why I worry, because down in Mexico yesterday, a mayoral candidate, a woman minding her own business with her daughter and a couple of guards.
Oh, yeah.
She was just campaigning in a little city of about 20,000 people, little town, about 20,000 people, minding her own business.
Isn't that where the cartel took her?
And a cartel guy went by, I think, on a motorcycle and 20 rounds into her, killed her, the daughter, and the two guards. So, realistically, folks, if someone's going to get you, if they want to take you out, they probably have a good chance of doing it. This Sheinbaum, the president of Mexico, you wonder why in the name of heaven she won't let President Trump help remove the cartel. It's because she's afraid. It's because she's afraid. By the way, the woman who was murdered, the mayoral candidate who was murdered, was a member of the same party as the president of Mexico. So they had the same beliefs, the same. But Sheinbaum, she's. I'm sure she's petrified that she has got. She can't make a mistake, or they'll do nasty things to her too.
You think that was a message to her?
Boy, I'll tell you, if it wasn't, it'll have the effect of being one, don't you think? Holy smokes.
For them to do it, they just wanted to show show them who they are and that they can do whatever they want. That's all I'm saying. Speaking of doing whatever you want, I think it's time for us to take a little break here for the cause. So do remember to like and share our program. We'd appreciate it.
I don't understand why she doesn't allow us to send out troops down there to help rectify the situation with the cartels, because that's the only way you're going to do it. They are armed, Bill. From what I understand, they're armed like small armies. They've got armored personnel.
Small armies?
Well,
I understand. They've got some hardware.
Well, I don't think they have. They may have helicopters, but I don't think they have airplanes, jets.
Well, I don't know. You never know, because there are things that get sold, old stuff, but I wouldn't
put it past them.
Yeah, I wouldn't put it past them. I wouldn't underthink them, because come on, they got little subs they smuggle drugs in with,
true.
So, and you could buy old surplus submarines, so how do you know they're not lurking out there with something that's capable of firing a missile?
A lot of people don't realize that, Bill, about the subs.
Yeah.
It's interesting, folks. Bill, tell them about the subs.
Well, no. What they were doing, you always see the speedboats out there, and they would have those cigarette boats to run the drugs. But what they had some little mini one-man powered subs, two-man powered subs. But then they were found to be buying old surplus submarines, and they refit them and everything. How much do they refit these things to where, okay, they're underwater, they're submerged, they can go anywhere they want. And, dead of the night, surface, somebody comes out, carries their stuff to shore where nobody's seen. But how capable are these
They
subs?
started making these subs manually. They started making them out of like fiberglass.
Yeah.
And then someone said, I guess, hey, we can afford subs. We got more money. We make more money in a day than some countries
They've
make in
got
a
more
year.
money than the oil industry. Come on.
Yeah. So, they probably have a fleet of regular subs now. And they put their drugs in the subs, and they'll take them underwater to sometimes a very distant port somewhere and drop them off. They are very clever in their distribution. Let's just leave it at that.
Yeah, you can't track a sub, or if you can, it's not easy to track a sub. So anything that we've got, the Coast Guard's got, is really not going to find them, and they can sneak in, get the drugs in. But you know what? Under Joe Biden, they were able just to drive it right across the border. Hi, how you doing? What do you got in there? Nothing.
Yeah.
Okay, you're free to go. Here's my card. It's a Joe Biden get out of jail card.
So I don't think that Scheinbaum is going to change her mind, because I think she's petrified, Bill. I think she's petrified for herself and her family and for her friends. And with this mayor being gunned down yesterday, the day before yesterday, I'm sure she's even thinking harder about if it wasn't meant to be a threat, I'm sure it had that effect. She's probably thinking very hard.
Her.
No,
I don't blame her. Would you?
No, I'd be. I don't think I would want that job if it were me. But the only way you're going to solve that problem is with a force equal or greater than what they have, the cartels have. And if Mexico is not going to work to get rid of them, it's going to be hard. It's going to be very hard. President Trump had another interesting success yesterday. I don't know if you heard about this. First federal judge says Trump can invoke the Alien Enemies Act to deport Tren de Aragua gang members. This is a big deal. A federal judge in Pennsylvania, of all places, on Tuesday became the first to say President Trump can invoke the Alien Enemies Act to deport Tren de Aragua gang members. U.S. District Judge Stephanie Haynes, a Trump appointee, said President Trump's description of the Venezuelan gang's incursion into the U.S. meets the threshold to invoke the Alien Enemies Act. Now, they've been fighting, the left has been fighting to get that stricken. No, you can't use that. We haven't been invaded. This judge says, no, we have been invaded. And yes, you can use this. And by the way, once the door is open for the Tren de Aragua, it's also open for anyone else he wants to get rid of. You know what I'm saying? He can say, well, they may not be a direct connection to Tren de Aragua, but they're connected in some way. It'll give him a reason to get rid of some people who they want to get rid of. I think it might. We're going to see some changes, Bill, with regard to the judiciary very soon. I do think he may end up invoking habeas corpus, suspending it. They say that. I heard Andrew Napolitano on Newsmax say, no, you can't do that, because if you suspend habeas corpus, that means that they can take regular people and not have to bring them into court for a hearing. You can just keep them in jail forever. Maybe technically that's the case, but that is not how this would be used in this situation.
Right.
And I think that President Trump has presented his issue to the Department of Justice and Homeland Security. They've all gone over it from what I understand. They've all said, no, you can suspend habeas corpus, and here's the reason why. As a matter of fact, Bill, we should check today. We have our own AI source that does some amazing legal work. We'll just leave it at that. We should present why there is a case for suspending habeas corpus along the borders and returning the illegals to their countries. That would be an interesting thing to pose to the AI. So that's a success. The judge finding for President Trump. Mike Davis is a very interesting guy. He's conservative. He's a project founder for Article 3, which is down in Washington, D.C. He was on Steve Bannon's show on the War Room Monday, and they were talking about how the judiciary is screwing around with this administration and how lawfare is being misused. And he had some interesting points. Listen.
Mike, people really responded to your, hey, about habeas corpus and something's going to happen before they leave for the summer. Any update on that, or what happened on the weekend? Well, we left you the radical judge, Clinton appointee in San Francisco, never ever heard of, shutting down President Trump's, Article 2 powers on basically not funding things and letting people go. So where do we stand, sir?
I would say this to the Chief Justice. You have let these Democrat activist judges sabotage American voters. They are election deniers by sabotaging the President of the United States exercising his core Article 2 powers. And if you refuse to get your judicial house in order because you're scared of bad press in the Washington Post and the New York Times, Congress is going to get your judicial house in order for you. And it's going to be through oversight. It's going to be through funding cuts. It's going to be through jurisdiction stripping. It could be through impeachment. But frankly, the simpler approach, as Speaker Newt Gingrich has been talking about, is just eliminating a judge's seat. So if the Chief Justice is not going to step up and get his judicial house in order, we're not going to let, as American voters, we're not going to let these activist judges sabotage our will and sabotage the President of the United States.
And you still see your date is still before they leave on the last day of June to go for their 3-month summer break. They don't come back, I think, to the first Monday in August. Your belief is it will somehow will have some sort of at least attempt at a rectification of this, sir?
Look, illegal aliens do not have constitutional due process rights related to remaining in this country. And the only time they get due process rights is when Congress provides those due process rights as it relates to remaining in this country. If these of these 7 generals on the Supreme Court, Commanding General John Roberts and his 6 lieutenant generals, think that they're just going to create constitutional due process rights for these illegal aliens, including Tren de Aragua terrorists, where the president can't get these people the hell out of our country, the Supreme Court is going to lose its legitimacy with the American people. And when that happens, it loses everything. So this is a dire warning to the Chief Justice. Proceed with caution.
Article 3 project founder Mike Davis on Steve Bannon's program talking about the judiciary. You know, I was listening to another podcast, and there's talk out there that there's a strong belief by a lot of people that one, if not more, of our justices are compromised.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know whether you've heard this or not. I'm not going to get into a great deal of detail here because I can't prove anything, but the speculation is that one of the reasons why the Epstein files have not been released is because at least one of them has been involved in that situation. And if that's the case, the speculation also says that by August of this year, again, this is just scuttlebutt that I've heard, but the speculation is that by August of this year, it will come to light and he will step down from his position on the Supreme Court in shame. Now, could that be one of the reasons why there's so much pushback on this administration? This administration, you know, when you and I, Bill, when you and I sit back and wonder, wow, man, there's so many roadblocks that the Trump administration is running into, and they just don't seem to be fighting back like you and I would be fighting back. I think there's a plan on the part of this administration, a plan to expose the corrupt people in our government, no matter where they are. I think that some of them are, you know, they're volunteering to show their own stupidity, and they're being seen for what they are. Others are trying desperately to hide, and I think that this is a difficult period for people who believe in justice. For us who believe in justice, it's frustrating to have to wait. But I do think that we're headed for some very interesting times. I think we're headed for a period of an awakening of sorts, you know, where the country starts to see, holy smokes, these people really were corrupt. They really did some terrible things.
The problem that we have is, you know, with AI anymore, you can do deep fake photos. And so you can't always trust them, but there are other ways that you can, find out.
That's a good point. And I think that the Justice Department would never trust just a photo nowadays. But by the way, from what I understand, the technicians at in government can actually, like in the FBI and stuff, they can tell whether it's a deep fake or not.
Well, yeah, you've got that. You've got flight log books of who's been on what flight. And I'm probably sure I know exactly who you're talking about because I know who I would be pointing the finger at from what I know in the Supreme Court. And, it remains, for them, they're probably going, how do I get myself out of this mess, before that. And that's, if I were them, I would sit there and say I have family matters or something. I would get the hell out of it somehow.
I don't think they'll hide. I don't think that will be enough for them. I think that there are people, Bill, who are going to go to jail. There are going to be some people in government who we have looked to with respect and given them. We've deferred to them with honor, and we're going to find out it was undeserved. That they were, in some cases, some of the biggest creeps in the planet.
Well, some of the people that we call bad guys are bad guys, but sometimes a couple of good guys could be bad guys. Leave it at that. That's all I'll say about it. But, if I were them collectively, I'd say we got to figure out how to get the hell off of this land and go to Fantasy Island where they belong
Well, I think it's going to happen.
There's a storm coming.
We're going to start seeing this soon.
Mm-hmm. I think August is not that far away.
I think a lot of us thought it was going to happen much quicker, like President Trump would get into office and all of a sudden would start seeing it right away. But I think Trump knows that you can't do this kind of thing quickly. Otherwise, it looks
No.
like you look like a dictator. You look like a third world banana republic dictator. I think he realizes in our country you have to expose it gradually and honestly so that people see it and understand it. And
All
I think
right.
that's what's happening now.
Question for you. Let's just say somebody somewhere in a high place has got their hands dirty. There are a lot of people with their hands dirty, and it doesn't look good for them. What could you do as a distraction to get all eyes off of this?
There are a number of things you could do. Number of things. You could cause some kind of an insurrection. You could cause some kind of a riot. Now, we're headed into summertime, folks. The weather's good. People can go out and burn things and break windows and threaten people, and they can do a lot of things to take your eyes away from the ball. You could also do some things that are worse. You could try to assassinate somebody. God forbid. I bless myself when I say that. I don't want that to happen. But you ask the question, how could you distract from the truth? There's a lot of ways of getting around it.
Create a war?
You could be attacked, yes. By the way, no one has ever talked, Bill, about the 60,000 pounds of ammonium nitrate that you and I have talked about many times before. And by the way, nobody even mentions that they're looking for it. If you lost 60,000 pounds of ammonium nitrate, was it 30 tons of ammonium nitrate, you think that maybe they'd be out there
60 tons.
No, 60,000 pounds, 30 tons.
Okay, 30 tons.
Yeah, but it's close enough for Bill. What's a few more tons of ammonium nitrate?
A lot of people don't realize ammonium nitrate, yes, it's fertilizer, but yes, it's a highly volatile fertilizer. It's an explosive. Think of Oklahoma and the Murrah building.
Yeah.
That's what brought it down in far less than, 30 tons.
Was it a U-Haul truck?
A U-Haul truck. Now, I forget the guy's name that went down for it, but and did the time. But now there's evidence coming out that it was the government behind blowing up the Murrah
You mean
building.
he was set up? He was a patsy, maybe like Lee Harvey Oswald?
Apparently that's the case. But if that's the case, then the government has a hand in using fertilizer to blow up buildings. I'm just saying,
Well, they can't find that. They cannot find. They also stopped talking about the thousands of military-aged Chinese males, unaccompanied by women, who crossed our border. They were said that they walked in a military style. They walked like a group, like a battalion. No big thing. Go ahead.
I know some people up in the northeast that have those deer cams out in the woods.
Yeah.
And they're coming up with videos of troops marching with guns, going through the woods that, people are aware of, but they just don't know where they're going and what they're doing.
American troop or Asian troops? Or can they tell?
They're not American troops.
Okay. So they're talking also, by the way, I heard that the next thing we're going to see is that they're going to take back. This is the same speculation, people.
Probably.
They're saying they're going to take back the Chinese farmland that they bought up because Trump is going to declare that farmland was part of a almost like an attack on our country. Mm-hmm. And that farmland, by the way, don't be surprised if he turns that farmland around and gives it to the Africana that are coming across, the people from South Africa, because they're farmers. Mm-hmm. And if there'll be a lot of land that'll be available to them. There'll be a lot of land that'll be available to American farmers too. The Chinese bought. If you're not aware of this, friends,
they bought a ton.
They bought a ton of farmland, and by the way, coincidentally, Bill, it was all right next to military bases. Isn't that strange how that worked out? All this farmland they bought was right up against military bases. I'm just saying it was a coincidence, probably prime property.
Well, yeah, it'd be interesting to go see what, like in Texas and where is it, Idaho or whatever they have it.
Montana, yeah.
Montana. It would be interesting to see, what the farmland is used for. I'm just wondering, we stockpile stuff. Joe gave away our oil stockpile, but maybe, just saying, maybe we should, maybe the government ought to get in the business of to a certain degree, having a stockpile of stuff.
They probably already do.
Of grains and, meat that is freeze-dried and everything.
Don't you think they probably have it? They have underground storage areas right now.
Mm-hmm.
I would think they would have supplies there.
Well, it would be good for if there ever is, God forbid, a war. It would be good to have that so that we know that American people would be fed. It would also be good. We are at a time of torrential weather, natural disasters. And when you go in, everything's shut off. These people have nothing. It'd be great. I mean, I remember being in Hurricane Frederick. Now, where I was, I had stuff. But I remember back then that they were going out. Yeah, they will be set up during, the curfew hours that you could go out during the day to go get your water and cheese.
Water
and that was back in the 70s.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to have something more than that,
So that we're not being told what happened to those Chinese illegals who came in.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, there was someone who went down, a reporter went down to Central America during the height of the invasion into our country, and he visited, they had these encampments set up down in Central America, like way stations for people to stop at, and they could sleep for the night or two and get some restock on food, maybe wash their clothes, put new shoes on, get clean socks. That's what these encampments were all about. It was that organized. And by the way, somebody paid for that, but they're not talking about that. But the Chinese had their own dedicated encampments in Central America. And when this reporter went to those encampments, unlike the other encampments that were very relaxed and pleasant and almost festive, people would be singing and stuff like that, in these Chinese encampments in Central America, they were treated like military bases. The guy said this. I forgot who it was. Was it Tucker? Maybe it was Tucker Carlson. It was somebody on Tucker's show, I think, who said that these bases were really military encampments. These stopovers. Nobody talks about that. And now those people are in this country. And when I hear the left say they're just here looking for a better life and to get away from the turmoil of their own home country, that's nonsense. Some of these people are here to take over our country, to inflict turmoil, to cause a problem. And I think that the left, they are doing their utmost to help them do that. I don't know whether it's intentional or not, but boy, in their stupidity, they're facilitating the efforts of these strangers who are here to do us no good. I see guys like Hakeem Jeffries. He was talking about that detention center, in New Jersey, and he was threatening. I don't know if you saw this or not, but he was threatening the people like Kristi Noem and Elena Haba. It sounded to me like Hakeem Jeffries was threatening violence.
It did sound that way.
It did.
Because Kristi Noem sat there and said, look, and there's pictures of these representatives, government officials that were, accosting these people. She goes, they're going to be fitted for a new set of cufflinks, bracelets,
I tell you what, Jesse, what happened last Friday was we had members of Congress assaulting law enforcement officers. They were cooperating with criminals to create criminal acts, and then they're saying that they were providing oversight. This wasn't oversight. This was committing felonies. This was going out and attacking people who stand up for the rule of law. And
That's Kristi Noem. And I understand Elena Hama is talking about possibly indicting some of these people, which would come as no surprise. And I'll say that. Go ahead, Bill.
Which is why Hakeem came in. Oh, we're going to retaliate. His exact words were they were going to retaliate and, try to go after these people politically, with anything that they can throw out there. They do not own the House yet, but they're going to try in, 2026.
Well, they're acting like they do. They're acting like they do. You hear Chuck Schumer talk, you think they still own the Senate, too.
Well, they feel like they're confident. They're getting everything back. Now, why do they feel confident? You never feel confident about an election coming up unless you got some inside knowledge.
Well, because I think, Bill, there were some corrupt Republicans.
Mm-hmm.
There are guys, and I don't know the man, but I got to question the motives of a guy like Tillis.
Mm-hmm.
Tom Tillis, I guess, from is it North Carolina or South? One of the Carolinas. I forgot.
So
which.
why doesn't he just go ahead and make it official? Because I think America needs to see it. We don't need it to happen, but if he's going that way anyway, just go ahead and show your true colors and switch parties.
But
it would be nice for everyone to see that.
But they're more effective if they don't, because they pretend to be something. They're chameleons. They pretend to be on our side, and then they screw us. You got to ask yourself, President Trump put this big, beautiful bill, the big, beautiful budget in front of Congress. It's phenomenal. It's really terrific. And you have guys like Tillis blocking it or threatening to block it. You have people like Lindsey Graham who are not really and truly to be counted on. I mean,
Lindsey, I've never trusted him, and I don't know what his game is. I really don't.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I don't think he's.
I don't think he knows what his game is.
Well, I think he does. I don't think there are some people in. I think there are some people in the Senate and in the Congress who are deep staters, Bill. They're principle. Their allegiance isn't to a party or to a person like Trump. Their allegiance is to something we can't see. They're getting something that we are not seeing.
So a deep state within the deep state?
Well, yeah, but the deep state, by the nature of what it is, there you don't know who they are.
No, you don't.
I mean, you look at guys like look at somebody like Nancy Pelosi, right? She was a representative for her whole adult life, a representative, making maybe, on average, over the years that she was in, $160,000 on average a year.
Well, it started out maybe 90 or 110.
Yeah, but at the end, it was up to $175,000. So on average, let's see, over the years, she made $160,000. She's worth what, $28 million?
Oh, more than that. But either way, you've got a party here. Could you imagine if you got to go to work and you go, you know what? I took an election last night when I got home at the dinner table. The kids, my wife, everyone said that I deserve a raise. So, boss, you're paying me $75,000. We're going to bump that up to $100,000. Okay, thanks very much.
What I don't understand, Bill, maybe you can explain it to me though, is when is enough enough? Nancy Pelosi's 84 years old. You would think that maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago, when she was only worth maybe $15 million, she would have said, I got enough. I'm going to bail out and relax. But these people, they can't help themselves. They still fight for that extra buck, that extra, piece of power. I don't get it.
Well, I would look at it this way. Maybe there's a price tag to the money you get. Okay, you make $150,000 a year. Oh, would you like to get that in a month, or in 2 weeks? All right, here's what you do. But you know what? Like the mob, we're going to call you when we call you to do something that you have to do for that money. Hey, don't forget to like and share. We're going to ask you to do that for us, and we're not asking for any money. How about that? Now,
this one just made me smile, Bill. A magistrate judge issued a warning to U.S. Attorney Elena Haba and ICE after the arrest of the Newark mayor. A magistrate judge warned U.S. Attorney Elena Haba and ICE against out-of-court statements about the case against Newark Mayor Ross Baraka during a hearing on Friday. I thought when I heard that, you've got to be kidding. First of all, a magistrate judge, at least in Pennsylvania, they don't even have to go to law school to be a magistrate judge. I think you have to take a course, and if you're a good boy...
If you get elected in, I think it's a 10-day course. That's it, because I had a buddy that wanted to do it, and then, he had some other family issues, and he would have gotten the vote, because everybody was there going, yeah, I'll vote for you, buddy, sitting there. And I know another judge, basically all his buds at the bar vote him in all the time.
Okay, so this magistrate judge, turns around to Elena Hamba, who's the acting U.S. attorney. She's a graduate, I think, from Widener School of Law. Mm-hmm. Smart young lady. She has proven her legal prowess, and yet this fathead magistrate saying, you better watch what you say outside of the courtroom about this case. Well, last I heard, it's freedom of speech, and I'm sure she weighs everything that she says about any case she's dealing with. She doesn't have to be lectured by a clown, who's dressed up in robes because he passed a course. But it's just a sign. There's an attitude out there on the left that we're allowed to break the rules now. And we're allowed to create our own rules now. And by the way, you can't do what we're doing. Again, going back to those South African immigrants we talked about, I just can't get over that. They're raising hell over 59 South African white immigrants who were allowed to come into this country. And believe me, Trump vetted those people. He knows who they are. He knows their names. He knows how many are in the family. They all came across with little American flags waving when they were greeted at the airport. He knows who they are. But the left is going ballistic over them coming into the country. I mean, you would think we allowed Hitler and the boys to come in. It's amazing, the attitude. But they had no problem during the opening of the border. Nothing. They were silent. So anyway, Bill, also, I don't know if you heard about this, but Biden apparently spent some time in Philly
hospital last week.
A Philly hospital, yeah. They said
I guess he had a nodule or something that was on his testicle.
On his prostate.
Prostate, that's it.
Prostate. It may have been on his testicle, too. Who knows?
I don't know. I knew it was down in the nether region.
Yes.
So
the discovery required, quote, further evaluation, according to the New York Times. However, Joe Biden's spokesperson is not providing any more details. Oh, no. We're not going to tell you anything, because why should we tell you something now when we didn't tell you anything about his presidency when he was president?
No, but that, well, you know what? I mean, there's a lot of things that could be leading to, and I don't like Joe, but I'm not going to sit there and wish ill health on him.
No. You see,
especially what that could be leading to.
A federal grand jury on Tuesday indicted the Milwaukee County judge, Hannah Dugan. She's the judge who tried to assist in getting an illegal to escape from her courtroom. ICE was there to book him, to scoop him up. And
obstructing ICE. Yeah.
She opened one of the back doors, let him out into an alleyway, and it resulted in a street chase, and they say it endangered the public because of her actions. So they indicted her yesterday. I'm sure there'll be a lot of talk about that too, Bill. I heard Al Sharpton talk about those Africana people.
Oh, that'll be interesting. What did he say?
Well, talk about being a racist. I'm sorry. People don't realize anybody of any color can be a racist. Anybody of any color can be a racist. If you, it's not a one-way street. You can have white racist, you can have black racist, You can have Asian racist, anybody who has that attitude, those beliefs can be a racist. But Al Sharpton, boy, he says the damnedest things about those white people from South Africa, and nobody questions him. It's like, oh yes, thank you, you're very good. You're a genius. We defer to you. French nationalist Marine Le Pen has endorsed, I guess, her full support behind the Romanian presidential candidate George Simeon. It sparked a big, a lot of turmoil in Europe. Europe's got a lot of problems. President Trump said yesterday that the biggest troublemaker right now is the EU, not China. Think about that for a second. For Trump to say that it's the EU that is the biggest problem and not China, that says something to me.
Yeah. Well, I would agree with him, too. I think China right now, they're trying to figure out what they're going to do because they're in economic chaos. Xi tried to call the bluff, and he got bluffed out on the tariff war here.
Which we talked about earlier. Yeah.
Right.
Bill, another interesting thing.
All right.
Representative Tim Burchett, I don't really know who he is. He's a smart guy. He's a Republican, and he's always got a good quip. If you remember, I want you to hear this. He was walking down the street in March, and this leftist reporter, a young guy, came running up to him with a gotcha question, and I want you to hear how he answered it. Listen.
Congressman Perry, do you trust Trump's national security team to keep our war plans top secret?
Do you trust your mother every night to fix your Hot Pockets and make sure your Game Boy is turned on?
Oh, my God. Do you trust your mother to make your Hot Pockets and make sure your Game Boy is turned on?
You got to believe that he thought, well, you know what? I got a line if anybody ever asks me, I'm just going to do that. And lo and behold, they did, and he did.
Well, he did it
It's
again.
a good line.
He did it again yesterday. He was again cornered by another leftist loon, and he had a line for him. Listen.
How can you assure the American people Medicaid won't you?
How can you assure your Nana that you still support her after she told you that chocolate milk is not coming around the house?
Congressman, how can you...
Are you sure your Nana...
How can you support her when she told you that chocolate milk doesn't come from brown cows?
Exactly. I mean, and every time he does it to one of these leftist loons, their mouths drop and they just stop. It takes all the air out of the sail.
I think he realized he's going to get these gotcha questions.
Probably.
So he's just going to sit there, and he probably has a bag of them to throw at him. And if I were a reporter, I would sit there and go, okay, I can't ask a gotcha question.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to make him, I'm going to have to rephrase this question. Yeah. But they're not that smart. They're stupid.
They are kind of dumb. So anyway, a lot of things happening this week. Lots of stuff going on. And we're going to keep you informed all week long here on our program and give you our opinion, too, because that's what we do here. I mean, it's the kind of thing we do. By the way, I should remind you, we have plenty of Jim and Bill's Right Side Coffee available in our gift shop, our online gift shop. All you have to do is go to rightsideshop.com, rightsideshop.com, or go to itsanotherday.com and press the button at the top, or even better yet, go to our brand new, main website now, which is Jim and Bill. How can you forget that? JimandBill.com.
That's a hard one there.
I know. Who's those two guys again?
JimandBill.com.
Yeah, JimandBill.com. And there's a button you press there, too. It says, what does it say, shop here or something like that? Or
shop here. I mean,
yes. Hey, I guess that's where you press the button, yeah.
Yeah, we complicated things, for you to make it really difficult to find us. JimandBill.com, shop here.
The coffee is delicious, by the way. It's a medium blend roasted coffee and a medium decaf blend, and it's just phenomenal. People rave about it. Even liberals like it.
Well, and even the player is on the site to where it has the most current show on it all the time, automatically updates by itself. So when you go there, hey, there's a current show, and there it plays. It's amazing.
He's so proud of that website because he spent hours sweating over
telling them how to put it together,
sweating over a hot keyboard to make that thing work, and he did a good job.
I was sweating over. Well, I wasn't sweating over. It was just a nice hot cup of right side coffee.
Oh, is that what it was? Anyway, you got to try the coffee. Also, we have Juan, Jose, and the Border Crosses here to sing our little jingle. Guys?
Wake up on the right side with Right Side Coffee.
Ah, yes. So anyway, Bill, we're just about finished with this one. We put a fork in this show. Been a lot of fun. A lot of things going on, like I said. We're going to have more to talk about tomorrow, and we invite you to come back and find out how true we are when we say that, all right?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting today because, Trump coming off the Saudi visit tomorrow. He will be in Turkey.
Tomorrow he'll be in Qatar. Yes, we got
Qatar. Yeah, Qatar. And then there's the Turkey thing, too.
The Turkey thing is Thursday, but but he's not going to go unless it absolutely is necessary.
Yeah.
If he'll go there to seal the deal, but he's not going to go there otherwise.
Too bad he couldn't go in the new plane. But either way, but you never know. You never know. But they, for him, they have to paint it up and make it look, Trump-esque.
That's true.
Otherwise, forget about it.
Yes.
But I guess there's only one thing left to do.
What's that?
Hasta la vista, baby. We're out of here.
This is CRN America.